Hello. Okay. We're going to try this again. So, we're going to be doing the lesson on the weeping prophet Jeremiah. Oh, there, that's better. Okay. So, we're going to do a lesson on the weeping prophet Jeremiah. We're going to do a review about last week's lesson first. So, review from last week. Okay. Who did we learn about last week? The prophet Isaiah. Okay, that's how it is. Okay. What happened when Isaiah saw God? He said he was doomed. That goes with our next question. Why did he feel he was doomed? Because he saw God and he is a sinner and from a people that are sinners. What did an angel do to Isaiah that made him good to look upon God? He touched Isaiah's lips with a coal from the altar in the temple. What was Isaiah's response when God asked, "Who should I send to the people?" Here I am, send me. Okay, now time to learn about Jeremiah. So the question is, what do you know about the prophet Jeremiah? So there's a lot of things we can learn about Jeremiah. We're going to learn some more about him. So introduction. So I'm going to read a section of the thing that we're learning from, and then I'm going to read a passage, and then I have some questions. Okay. One of the most important prophets in Israel's history began as a young, unassuming character. He doubts his ability to carry out the Lord's assignment, even after God himself spoke the marching orders directly into his life. Jeremiah had to learn that God's people can accomplish any assignment the Lord gives to them if they trust in his presence and power along the way. Jeremiah is sometimes called the weeping prophet because of his personal anguish over Judah's sin and their future captivity. He seemed to live in constant conflict with the authorities and the judge and the people themselves. Jeremiah spoke hard messages of judgment. Sometimes he didn't want to speak the word he was called to speak. He was honest about his unhappiness with the situation and sometimes expressed his frustrations to God. Through it all, Jeremiah would remain faithful to God's call. His success ultimately lay in being faithful to God's call and trusting God as he boldly delivered the Lord's message. So, question, before I read the main passage. There. When have you been frustrated with God for something he called you to do? We're going to go there. Oh, perfect. And then, what caused your frustration? How did you respond, and what did God ultimately do with the situation? Now I'm going to look up Jeremiah 20, verses 9. 20, verses 9 says this. But if you say, I will never mention the Lord or speak in his name, his words burns in my heart like a fire. It's like a fire in my bones. I am worn out trying to hold it in. I can't do it. Okay. Okay. Focus. Attention. Okay. Describe your most difficult assignment in school or your most difficult challenge in your extracurricular activities. How did you get through it? So think of some of the hardest assignments you were given in school, or stuff you went through in sports or drama or dance, or any activities outside of school that's really hard. How did you get through that? Explore the text. Okay, so I'm going to read Jeremiah 1, chapter 1, verses 4 to 6. Okay, 4 to 6 says this. The Lord gave me this message. I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Before you were born, I set you apart and appointed you as my prophet to the nations. O sovereign Lord, I said, I can't speak for you. I am too young. Okay. So, question. God decided before Jeremiah was born that he would be a prophet. That's in verse 5. Was this comforting to Jeremiah? Why or why not? So think of all the stuff that they talked about in the verses. Did Jeremiah find this comforting? Well, if you look into 6, he says, O sovereign Lord, I said, I can't speak for you. I'm too young. So the first thing he thinks of is, I'm too young to be your servant, to do what you tell me to do. Okay. Jeremiah was stepping into a story God had already written, God's eternal nature existing simultaneously before we did, and in our future, should give our hearts courage. There is nothing we face that he has not already faced. There is nothing we will face that he is not currently standing over in victory. So then, I'm going to read Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 7 to 10. And it says, The Lord replied, Don't say I'm too young, for you must go wherever I send you, and say whatever I tell you. And don't be afraid of the people, for I will be with you, and will protect you. I, the Lord, have spoken. Then the Lord reached out and touched my mouth and said, Look, I have put my words in your mouth. Today I appoint you to stand up against the nations and kingdoms. Some you must uproot and tear down, destroy and overthrow. Others you must build up and plant. Okay, how did God react to Jeremiah's doubts and excuses? And then, how did God prepare him for his mission despite his youth? So how did God react to Jeremiah when he came up with these excuses and doubts? And then, how did God prepare him for his mission despite his youth? Okay, next question. Do God's words, do not say, I am only a youth, apply to students today to you? So, does that apply to you when God says, do not say, I am only a youth? Okay, I got something I got to read. While we may not have the exact calling of Jeremiah, we do serve the exact same God. Jeremiah's excuse did not work with God, and our excuse will not work today either. Okay, now we got to read Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 11 to 16. So I'll read that. Then the Lord said to me, Look, Jeremiah, what do you see? And I replied, I see a branch from an almond tree. And the Lord said, That's right. And it means that I am watching, and I will certainly carry out all my plans. Then the Lord spoke to me again and said, What do you see now? And I replied, I see a pot of boiling water spilling from the north. Yes, the Lord said, for terror from the north will boil out on the people of this land. Listen, I am calling the armies of the kingdoms of the north to come to Jerusalem. I, the Lord, have spoken. They will set their thrones at the gates of the city. They will attack its walls and all the other towns of Judah. I will pronounce judgment on my people for all their evil, for deserting me and burning incense to other gods. Yes, they worship idols made with their own hands. Okay. How did God use these lessons to reassure Jeremiah? So, how did God use these lessons to reassure Jeremiah? That's a tough question for that reading. I will admit that. But let's see. Let's look at the other reading that we got to do. Okay, we got to read Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 17 to 19. And it says, Get up and prepare for action. Go out and tell them everything I tell you to say. Do not be afraid of them, or I will make you look foolish in front of them. For see, today I have made you strong, like a fortified city that cannot be captured, like an iron pillar or a bronze wall. You will stand against the whole land, the kings, officials, priests, and people of Judah. They will fight you, but they will fail, for I am with you, and I will take care of you. I, the Lord, have spoken. Okay. What would make God's message a difficult one for Jeremiah to deliver? So, what would make the message of God a difficult one for Jeremiah to deliver? Well, we saw the last passage that God had this message of, all these kingdoms are going to come and take out Jerusalem. So that's probably a tough one. But let's move on. Okay, time to apply the text. So, Jeremiah's success and victory lay in faithfully delivering the Lord's message. In the same way, the Lord is the one who assures our success. God wants us to rely on and obey him regardless of our situation. We can trust God with our calling because he knows the end of the story. Okay. So last couple questions. What are some of the obstacles that get in the way of believers living out their calling? Let me move this closer. So what are some obstacles that get in the way of believers living out their calling? Okay. What reassurance from the life of Jeremiah would help you move forward in faith towards what God has called you to do? So what reassurance from what we've learned from Jeremiah today would help you move forward in faith towards what God has called you to do? So that's Jeremiah. Like I said, if you're in our youth group, you can learn more about Jeremiah from this book. They give you a 3-day lesson, but you also can go and read the book of Jeremiah. Also, he wrote Lamentations. So you can learn a lot about Jeremiah in those 2 books. I highly recommend reading. He's a great prophet to read. There's some movies on him. Memory verse of the week, Jeremiah 1:7. The Lord replied, "Don't say I'm too young, for you must go wherever I send you and say whatever I tell you." So that's our memory verse for the week. Next week, we will be learning about the prophet to the exiled, Ezekiel. So he's a prophet that's to the exile. So that means this is after Babylon came over and took everything and took the people from Judah and Jerusalem all the way to the Babylon. I'm just learning how to do live, so I'm sorry if this was not the best. I am going to be working and learning, trying to get some cameras. I hope everybody's having a great time. I missed everybody at youth group. Please give me some feedback. I know that I need to get better cameras and all that, so that's on my list of stuff to do. I hope everyone has a great time. Missed everybody. Praying for everybody, people that are not feeling good or people that have a lot of homework. Hope to see everybody Sunday. I'm going to try and make some videos these next couple of days from stuff that we've done in the past that I haven't had a chance to record yet. So keep up with the youth by liking. So I hope everyone has a great night. Good night. God bless. I'll see you guys soon.